Master, Tomrito and Trailokya. Youngsters like Narendra and Rakhal are ever perfect. Every time they are born, they are devoted to God. An ordinary man acquires a little devotion after austerities and a hard struggle. But these boys have love of God from the very moment of their birth. They are like the natural image of Shiva, which springs forth from the earth and is not set up by the human hands. The ever-perfect form a class by themselves. Not all birds have crooked beaks. The ever-perfect are never attached to the world. There is the instance of Prahlad. Ordinary people practice spiritual discipline and cultivate devotion to God. But they also become attached to the world and are caught in the glamour of woman and gold. They are like flies, which sit on a flower or a sweetmeat and light on filth as well. But the ever-perfect are like bees, which light only on flowers and sip the honey. The ever-perfect drink only the nectar of divine bliss. They are never inclined to worldly pleasures. The devotion of the ever-perfect is not like the ordinary devotion that one acquires as a result of strenuous spiritual discipline. Ritualistic devotion consists in repeating the name of God and performing worship in a prescribed manner. It is like crossing a rice field in a roundabout way along the bog. Again, it is like reaching a nearby village by boat in a roundabout way along a winding river. One does not follow the injunctions of ceremonial worship when one develops raga bhakti. When one loves God as one's own, then it is like crossing a rice field after the harvest. You don't have to walk along the bog. You can go straight across the field in any direction. When the country is flooded deep with water, one doesn't have to follow the winding river. Then the fields are deep under water. You can row your boat straight to the village. Without this intense attachment, this passionate love, one cannot realize God. Omrito. Sir, how do you feel in Samadhi? Master. You may have heard that the cockroach, by intently meditating on the Brahmara, is transformed into a Brahmar. Do you know how I feel then? I feel like a fish released from a pot into the water of the Ganges. Omrito. Don't you feel at that time even a trace of ego? Master. Yes. Generally, a little of it remains, However hard you may rub a grain of gold against a grindstone, still a bit of it always remains. Or again, take the case of a big fire. The ego is like one of its sparks. In Samadhi, I lose outer consciousness completely. But God generally keeps a little trace of ego in me for the enjoyment of divine communion. Enjoyment is possible only when I and you remain. Again, sometimes God effaces even that trace of I. Then one experiences Jada Samadhi or Nirvikalpa Samadhi. That experience cannot be described. A salt doll went to measure the depth of the ocean. But before it had gone far into the water, it melted away. It became entirely one with the water of the ocean. Then who was to come back and tell the ocean's depth?